You just check on YouTube, and I was
Okay.
with somebody.
The screen says it's being live streamed.
Go ahead and get started, and I'll just take this together and see if I can hit it off.
Okay, that sounds good. Everyone, thank you for your patience. It is October 21st, 2024. This meeting of the Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission for the Village of New Paltz is starting at 7:03 by my. Our first order of business is to look at the minutes from September and make any adjustments if needed. Anybody see anything?
I agree, yeah, that'll fit.
Motion to approve as submitted.
I need to put them in.
Second.
Second. Then that implies that you're okay with this. So there's seconded. All those in favor of approval? Okay, minutes 100% approved. Val, thank you. And that's what,
We have success.
all right. Actually, the whole meeting, don't let us off with that. You know what's new from the report?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Bill.
It's a great day, right?
Oh, that's right.
You know, there's Halloween. Not too much to convey. The Ulster County Planning Board met earlier this month. The only property that might concern you under consideration is the old Ruby Blueberry property, where a cannabis dispensary. Ulster County Planning Board had some issues with their plans. It went to a vote in a very lightly attended meeting. We just met for them. It was sent back to the applicant because they were not happy with what was being presented. So they'll have to settle some of these issues with the planning board and the county planning board. Essentially what they were looking for was perhaps a sidewalk. There's concerns, including our own planning board, with crossing from the park. And some paving might be required, at least in the apron area, parking lot, and some drainage issues need to be addressed. And of course, the applicant's a tenant, so this is not, this may all fall upon the owner of the property. So we'll see what happens when it goes there. The only thing I can think of that might be of interest to you is we circulated a few months ago a broader definition of family, and that's come up periodically, and as it relates to the R2 district, the broadening might have an effect on that district that may not make all the constituents living in that district happy. So that's coming up. It's not, I didn't lay it on our agenda for this Wednesday, but it's a topic of discussion. There's a lot there. Should probably go to seeker and possibly even referendum. So that's an issue, I think, for this body to keep an eye on. Now the waste. And I'll circle back to a few years ago where the village expanded the historic district, including several streets, and this may be an opportunity to revisit expanding that into other areas of the village, given the amount of history that's on some of these side streets that aren't particularly covered by the current historic map. In recent weeks, I did a bit of research on what Prospect Street was, what Grove was, what Mill Rock was. There's a whole lot of history there, and with housing well over 100 years old in spots. So it might be something to worth, for address and present to the board.
Great.
That's my wrap, and
Thanks.
I have to wrap because I have to take care of some other business this evening. So I'll be ducking out.
Okay, thanks. Any questions?
Any questions? No,
Actually, anything quick on
Sure.
7 prospect,
Yeah.
the stop work order, anything?
stop work order is still in effect. Let me think of a moment. I'm not sure when it's back to planning board review, but it has to be reviewed again. There were some issues with, what was included and not included on the site plan. There were some. Concerning its survey and what was thought to be the boundary lines, the outer boundary lines of the property. And there was work done, not on site plan, and there's concerns about exactly what that two-family structure is. It's in the R2, and there's concerns that that's not what it is. It may be something more like a rooming house. But these are things that we've wrestled with in the village previously, and I think the developer, who's become quite a major developer in New Paltz, will have to make some changes, I suppose. So
There's a chance that we may see plans again.
yeah, and I don't know, I think the color came up one point, the color siding that is being used, that got a comment from a couple of neighbors saying, why is it the same as the other homes on the street? Making it look a bit more monotonous, rather there's no contrast in color selection, because we're using like a light brown. And nearly each of the buildings down that section are having very similar patina to them.
Okay.
I don't know what they brought into you to look at. I remember it was presented, but I don't recall exactly what they did.
No. We did talk about siding,
Yeah,
and I don't know what the final outcome was.
so you talked about, yeah, it was vinyl siding that they wanted to use, which is what's been put up, but I don't think the color was examined. You know, they seem like.
Well, our recommendation wasn't vinyl siding, was hardboard.
It was hardboard.
Don't think we ever would.
No, they're not.
Yeah, we were the other two, vinyl siding.
Yeah. And the color was, and you never saw a color selection. Maybe that's something we brought up to the planning board.
Yeah, it was complicated because 5 and 7 were sort of bundled.
Yeah.
And we were really invited to comment more on 5, and that ended up sort of getting us wrapped into 7.
Right. Yeah. I remember this.
But I don't really think we were ever officially asked at the consultation.
Yeah, which brings me back to the expansion. Because, it's clear that there's opportunity here, by developers to buy, single family homes and 2-family homes and convert them to other uses. And it's, and from those and, your family situations, there's a bit of, nervousness about that.
That's a conversation I think it'd be good if we stayed on, because, in some ways, definition of family is one thing, but there are also architectural moves that can be made that privilege one or other kind of living.
Right.
And this came up really concretely with number 5, because the original plan had 3, it was presented as family intentional or family friendly with 3 equal bedrooms, each with a bathroom and the same size closet. That I look at that and I say, no, that isn't how usually a 3-bedroom family home is built. So the kids share a bathroom.
Yeah.
If the parents are lucky, they have their own, but that sort of came up, and I think you can control for the outcome through architectural review. without getting too deep into what a family is.
Yeah, I think in this particular instance, and planning boards don't necessarily have much to say about the inner workings of a structure. You know, you can say 3 bedrooms, and that's sufficient.
Right.
How it's configured, that's something else, and then it becomes an enforcement issue that. You know, how are these 3 bedrooms being used? Are these 3 bedrooms now 6? You know, and it becomes very sticky situation in terms of privacy and enforcement. So.
But we stand by to be, that discussion is. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
On 62 Main,
Okay.
is there a stop work order on that?
Then you mean the bakery, the
No.
glass structured?
No.
What is that, the diner?
Yeah, it's the B-side diner.
Eastside diner? They started siding it and they started doing work in the back and they stopped?
I don't know.
No, okay.
Yeah.
This is Alex's note about that property, but it had nothing to do with stop work, but just about future plans.
That's a different one.
62? This is,
That's 102
okay. All
or
right.
104. I think it's 102.
So the owner.
So that's a completely separate thing, but at 62 Main, there was a siding project that had
Yeah.
already started. And somebody in the public contacted me asking why they were allowed to do this without any review, which they shouldn't be allowed to do. So we sort of worked backwards, and a very compliant owner, at our recommendation, changed at least the front facade to
Right.
hardy board. But then I think separately, there was a stop work order. What I heard was it was related.
OSHA.
Yeah, it was workplace safety stuff. So you haven't heard one way or another.
Yeah, no, I don't.
And I haven't glanced at that.
Yeah. All right, very good.
Thank you, Don.
I think that is what I.
Yes. So maybe we can, the building department should know.
Oh, absolutely.
Bill, thanks. Thank you.
If you could just circle back to 62 Main Street. I think they should have consulted us. And part of the reason why I'm saying this is because the color of the building, the color of the new siding is almost identical to 60. There is hardly anything that differentiates the 2 buildings.
Yeah, it's different. It's clay color versus gray.
It's
It's
gray.
more like a brown.
It's gray.
Yeah.
It's gray. It's very similar. And
Well, yeah, the story there, I mean. There is a 4 quarter, so two of the 3 available sides have already been sided. With but that's the color, so we just said go match as best you can what you've already put up. The problem there was I don't think the building department understood when asked. The applicant went and said, what do I need to do? Wasn't told to seek review, and you're right, would have really urged different, or at least a different print, which maybe we could still get. I think with the stop work, this may not be the moment to raise that. But let's make a note to follow up. We can follow up on both things, but I mean, that's how it evolved, it wasn't, it was absolutely an emergency. Everyone, let's move on to HPC 2403. Jeff, would you like to? I think everybody knows this is a follow-up.
Yeah.
Discussion. I keep seeing good stuff happen. At least it seems like good things happening at 191.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. You're not hating the project yet, are you?
Oh, no. Good. No, we knew what we were getting into.
So yeah, left hanging were some details about what we're gonna do about fenestration.
If I have your email and your documents.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's, so on the, right there, on the windows. Uh. Replacing the windows, we were gonna go with the Anderson Woodwright double hung. With the, I think they call it a full divided light. They all have little different terms, but it's attached inside and outside, and then there's like a metal bar in spacer in the glass.
Okay,
And I guess that's so the sunlight doesn't shine through it. Off an angle.
that's more than I knew, actually. I didn't know the reason for that.
I didn't know that either. You just
Okay.
told me that, because I guess they do attach it. Just to the glass on the inside and the outside, they can do that too. And then it's just clear glass in there, so. The shed dormers, because of the tightness and the overhangs on those sheds, and they're all different. Having a casement window for those wouldn't really work out. Because they're very close to the roof, and then they're close to the top, and then there's an overhang. So an awning window works better. An awning window is basically the same window, only it opens, it just flips out. Which, I mean, we would have preferred casements, but. So that was another small change. On the west wall on the first floor of the original stone house, which faces, obviously the ridge. There's a bedroom back there. Well, it's technically, I mean, it's called a den, technically on the plan, but it's still a sleeping area, so it should have egress windows. And the stonework doesn't allow for a double hung
Okay,
to be big enough. I think when I first looked at it, I thought it was, but I think they got a little bit bigger over time. Double hung, so a casement is necessary for those to have egress. So there's two of them are in the bedroom area, and then two of them are sort of in a living room area, which you wouldn't need a casement there, but they all may as well be casements,
right.
and they're all in the back. They're not visible from the road.
And was there a plan on the casements to put in a false meeting rail?
We talked about that, and what happened was that, I think it was, this gentleman said. At the meeting, to me, it looks like a casement that's trying to look like a double hung. And that kind of stuck with me, and now I'm thinking. That's not the best look to have. A casement that's trying to look like a double hung.
Right.
Especially with all the windows that are visible from the road. So all the upper windows visible from the road would be in the casement style window.
Right.
And it may be better just to
It helps.
leave them all,
Yeah, that is.
yeah,
Yes, thank you.
And in any case, with the casements, we're talking about the west side. The back
yes,
side.
that would be the back, yes, the
Yeah, I
back
mean, I
side.
think it's just a completely other conversation when it's your private backyard.
Yeah, it's not visible from any other. And currently, those four windows are, they're vinyl replacement windows. So they have to come out, the frames are not good shape at all, so they all have to be rebuilt.
I think you maybe misunderstood me, but I think the center rail is a big plus
Oh, okay.
on that.
The horizontal, yeah.
Yeah, the simulated center rail, because it gives you the visual of a true double hung with a casement window that people need for egress. I mean, but depending on the manufacturer, which Anderson is a good one, I think you should look into that.
Okay, well, I'm not opposed to that either.
Agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the context, like if you're matching double hung windows on the same facade. Then that would make sense to have that false meeting rail. I mean, I guess we'd have to see the elevation, but I mean, if this is on the back side of the house and. I mean, I guess all those. I don't know, if they're the same head height and sill height and at the same height and everything as the double hungs, then maybe there's an argument to be made to match the look of the double hung with the
Mhm.
false meeting rail, but if not, if they could stand alone with their own windows, then they could look nice as casements too, you know? I think it just depends on, you know, the wall they're in, the windows that they're close to. You know, what we're trying to match, if anything. I think all that's important in deciding.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that either.
So sorry, so on this photo, which windows are they?
It's it's these. So
Yeah,
these are the two where you really need egress.
Yeah,
But then matching them out definitely would make sense.
So then you would want to match these.
Yeah.
Because that's all part of the original. Then you get into the newer, you know, whenever that one goes.
Which will be double hung, right?
Yeah.
Those would, it would be nice to have all those first floor windows,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
I think I'm meeting with.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly how we expressed that, but that solution has worked, on another project. Even Planet Hill, where exactly the same situation, needed the casement to get the, is it 6 square feet? Or 5.7,
Yeah, yeah.
and the only solution was the basement, and it was gonna disrupt the nice flow of, you know, meeting rails.
Yep.
And it worked out the other place.
Okay.
I think in these windows too, like the frames are so thin. That the false meeting rail doesn't even end up being that much thicker than the vertical muntins anyway. You know, or like a horizontal muntin would be on a casement, so it's not gonna end up looking that much.
Yeah, those particular
No,
windows, you can't even tell.
And look, that's what I'm saying, it looks so thin.
But unlike the Anderson, they are wide, you know, they're a little bit wider, a little heavier.
Okay, yeah.
So it's gonna tie in more to the windows on the flatwood side, where you
Yeah,
put some homes in there.
yeah, I
It
agree.
seems.
I agree. Now, what about, what was really probably more important is the ones in the gable ends, the north and south gable.
And
Again, I think
I think it's
you gotta go the other direction. Maybe.
good.
Oh, there it is.
yeah,
So those two there.
and there you're proposing. I gotta go back to my notes. The Anderson 400 series,
Yeah.
right?
So on the window float, he just has a 2/2
Yeah, nice.
with no, without the wider rail.
But 2/2 on the double hung?
No, the upper casing, which would be casements, these would be casements.
It was nice to put that rail in.
So then put the rail in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think do that meeting rail all around.
Okay.
On all double hung,
Yeah.
all cases there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing Anderson would give you some range on how high that false meeting rail would be.
I don't know if that has a range, I know that the other grills have a range. And I selected the narrowest ones, which pretty much match what's there, they go quite wide. I don't know if the cross rail has.
It's worth asking,
Yeah.
you know, if anybody.
They have a cut sheet on it. Where you could get a cut sheet on it, will give you the dimension of that.
Mhm.
You wanna go back to the attachments, you know, it's to help to look at the images from your specs.
Those have. So that's double hung.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably
That size,
that size.
it is.
Yeah, if it's in that series, it's gonna be that size.
You know, I think that. Yeah, it's gonna be right around there,
Yeah,
and these, you know, 1/4 inches don't. They're not noticeable, 1/2 inches are really noticeable. So.
It's gonna make a big difference in the look for your house.
Yeah.
cause that was cause I've seen them, you know, they happen to have models in the
Yeah.
different stores that I've been in, and they look fine.
Yeah, they're pretty convincing from a distance.
Yes.
I agree. Yep. So that sounds like consensus, false meeting rails
Sure.
on the casements.
Okay.
That's just gonna tie the south side to the west side as it wraps around, you know, it's gonna be one family windows. And I suspect have almost no consequence price wise.
No, no. Not in the minor details.
That's great. I think that's
There was,
the awning when the north side, we didn't talk about that.
yeah, the north side and the north side uppers and the south side uppers were the ones
And back to the.
that we're talking about doing the false double hung. As well.
Okay,
And then there was also, on the north side,
Can we look at that elevation now?
That's the south.
is there,
that's
the other side.
that's actually, that's still west, right?
Yeah, that's what, that's the back of the garage. Okay, that,
Yeah, there we go.
so there's that little window there, which we didn't talk about that the last time. That's a little awning window that was put in there. Maybe seventies-ish, because there was a full bathroom back there, and they put that window in. I wanted to just eliminate that,
Bless you.
and then this whole edge is gonna have to be resided with, you know, light material. Is that other blank, there's a hole for a dryer vent, and then the bottom is rotted out, and the oil
What's that
spills
boiler thing?
are coming out.
Is it coming out? Good.
Yeah, it's gonna be a heat pump system.
Good enough. Yeah, let's record that now. There's no disagreement around that, right? That'll really clean up that page.
And that material is readily available.
Great.
So just do a light for light.
Good. Did we ever, I can't remember, it's been so long, did we already say yes on the garage door? I think that was part of the original approval.
I'm not sure. What? I mean, you can certainly find that door,
Yeah.
but I'm doing, I have a lot of stuff stored in there. A lot of older material, like. That I plan on repurposing.
Yep.
Not exactly sure what I'm gonna do with it. So I was gonna speak with the building inspector, and I was actually just gonna sort of like. Temporarily block that off, because I can't do any work in the garage in terms of. Fire code and all that. So I wanna sort of make it a non-garage. If
Okay,
he's comfortable with saying, okay, you're not gonna park your car in here. And then get back to it at a later point. So that we can, you know, move ahead, get a CO on the house.
yeah, that makes.
And then go back and deal with the garage later, but if I don't think he would, I don't know if he would like, I put a new door in. And he says, you know, you don't have fire code, you got exposed wood, I can't give you a CO, or,
That seems very reasonable to me, Jeff. I mean, maybe just like, I don't know, screwing it into the frame.
either that, or I could even just put a temporary stud wall in front of it or something, or, you know, so I wanna use it as, you know, as a workshop. To do the finishing stuff. We have like a lot of reclaimed wood. That. Hopefully I can make good use of, but it's, you know, it's gonna take a lot of time, and,
Right.
you know, I don't wanna like. Kind of rush it,
Or leave it exposed.
yeah. So,
But
yeah, I don't even remember if we approved anything on the garage door anyway.
Val will know.
Well, let me scroll to the first sheet, because I would have annotated it for Alex.
Does anybody see any objection or have an objection to that?
No.
Plan? That seems totally smart to me.
Doesn't look like it. I'll double check.
Okay, well, maybe just for safety's sake, let's put it in as no objection. To that idea if the building inspector agrees to it, and I think putting up a temporary stud wall should. Absolutely
Yeah.
solve that.
I mean, that's almost ready to. Fall down on its own.
Right.
Kind of a danger right now.
We had an interesting case on Huguenot Street where somebody with a very similar door, similar vintage. With refreeze, opened the door one February, let's say, and the lower panels just came out.
Yeah.
The door came out with the lower panels, stayed because they were frozen to the.
Okay, yeah.
And then we had an emergency, like, what do we do? So that's the garage door up here, so,
Yeah.
so you may be saving yourself that trouble. That sounds great. So just to recap, the overall plan is that the casement windows will all have false meeting rails matched as closely as possible to the real meeting rails. We've agreed to awning style windows
Okay.
on the front facade. And then it's otherwise the Anderson 400 series, I think.
Yeah, the Woodwright
Yeah.
400.
Just on the awning windows, I don't know if Anderson offers this, they may not, because a lot of window manufacturers don't, but they might have in-swing casements. Did you consider?
Marvin has in swings.
Yeah.
They're like really, really expensive.
Yeah, they are. I don't know if Anderson does. I mean, it depends on how much you want cases.
Yeah, they Anderson doesn't have an in swing.
Okay.
But they're also narrow and they get. When I was talking to Marvin and Anderson, they were both hemming and hawing about the narrowness of the window
Okay.
for a casement. So,
Yeah, because there's a little more.
Yeah,
mechanism
yeah.
to catch.
but it'll look the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't feel strongly that it's like a different look. It's just if you were married to that function of a window, then it might be.
Yeah.
You probably get just about the same airflow, and the great virtue of casements is you can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
90 degrees to the wall. With your overhang, you're probably gonna get 70 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
should be honest.
I mean, I remember my old house, like. We had a few windows that we opened for cross ventilation, and then the rest of them were really never opened. So I think that'll probably be the same thing.
You figure out what you need. and what-
Yeah, which ones work the best and.
Right. That sounds great, and we'll also make a note that the garage door solution is approved. That's as a temporary measure. And then we're also okay with the removal of that awning window and re-siding like for like. Right? Does that get us to where you are, Chip?
Excuse me?
Does that cover everything that is in the near future? for you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That's great. Does everybody agree that that's what we'll?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck with our project. Hey, Jeff. You come forward. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome back. It's, So everybody, we've had a preliminary sense of this application. Jeff, why don't you just kind of for the record and sure for our edification.
So essentially, it's a single room sunroom added adjacent to a living room on the south side of the house. Gets a lot of sun, so we have a lot of windows that'll be on the south side. That's the Huguenot Street side. And this is the south side. So there will be the same type of window. We had a project done, gosh, 17 years ago. So those windows basically will be the same grille style, white double hungs of similar size. The addition is going to have 2 sets of 3 windows on the south face. Actually, I've got it. They're Anderson 400 series.
Oh,
So double checking as I went back for a bit, because you're asking the other.
Sorry,
Yeah, which is what the house is,
Okay,
so they will look of the same.
You have an elevation in this, don't you?
Yeah, you should have it there, there you go. That's the front Huguenot Street side. Those windows, unfortunately, I don't think the architect drew in. There's a double hung on the front here where the print is.
okay.
That already exists, so they'll be, pretty much the same. Those windows. And then on the, okay, that's the back side. And then oops. Okay, yeah, I don't even remember where they all. I think you might have passed. Yeah,
You know, I think what else is going on about, it's very, big.
yeah, I think it might have been on the other side of one of the, I think they were like on the same platform, but.
We don't reduce it down to, I don't know what it.
Now, I'll just get to where I need to do reducing this, so.
That's,
Do you think I'm missing one, Jeff?
It might be. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I think all the other issues are, yeah. So there are the three,
okay,
try to center them kind of underneath the upstairs windows, the best we could. So maximize the windows on the south side. The porch itself on the Huguenot Street side will be a continuation of the existing.
Right.
And the only change there is the roofing material on the porch. And the south side, it's gonna wrap around, be a metal roof. Rather, pretty much what it looks like. I actually have the roof information with me. But we felt that this way it tied everything in very nicely. And even the balance with the Henry Court side, the way the roof is cut, trying to be consistent, symmetrical. This is style. There'll be no foundation. It really is more like a slab. It is a slab. It'll be heated with a mini split and cooled. On that east elevation, that's where the mini split.
okay, good, yeah, that's, we probably want to talk about some landscaping just for this, yeah.
Yeah, well, our intention is to continue with the azalea rhododendron. Okay. I don't know, the pretty traditional things that are already there.
That sounds great.
Nothing dramatically different. We actually may reuse some of the azalea on the east elevation, see if it makes it. And if it doesn't, we'll just have to replace it.
So if I, for note-taking purposes, screen with existing plants.
Yes, yeah, please, yeah, that's our intention, because the south side today has a very overgrown rhododendron. Well, we're not use that. We will use smaller rhododendrons that'll be trimmed, because otherwise they cover half the windows. That's kind of defeats the purpose of what we're putting in the windows.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And just as a note, it's months ago now that you had asked about the metal roof. And
Yes.
you had a conversation, quite focused and said that sounded right, and it seems like a very good move to me.
Yeah, and the colors, it's not black, it's like a dark charcoal.
Okay,
The siding will match the existing siding, that same color, same party board. I mean, it was put on like 18 years ago. So it'll be consistent with the rest of the house. Color wise.
good. And the metal roof is a standing seam style.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
That's what I recall. reading.
Yeah. It's. Yeah, SL 16, which is. I guess it's standing seam. I'm not a metal person, but
Oh,
that's
that's 16 in
right, 16-inch wide. Seams, I guess, are pieces that are standing like you said. There is also, this picture has it here, but further in these plans is a skylight.
Yes.
There it is right there. And that one elevation doesn't really show it well, but it's it's gonna be centered on that the middle window there. Right, yeah. There is no egress to the outside front porch, you know, just keeping the window and making it worse. And it's really a pretty simple, just used as a sunroom or just an extended.
Did it ever come up that the fireplace could be two-sided, or is that just?
We've had a two-sided fireplace in another house and we're not thrilled with it. Yeah, I prefer the one side. We had ventilation issues that constantly came up. We are, by the way, I mean, I know you're not terribly concerned with the interior, but we're actually reusing the brick exterior as the interior wall, which is quite clean.
Yeah.
I actually like the brick a lot, so I'm like, I don't want to get rid of this. I'd rather have this than sheetrock, so.
Sure.
And it is, again, a sunroom. It's not. It's gonna be done nicely, but you know, it's meant to be plain.
Would you consider using brick?
Excuse me?
Would you consider using brick instead of the hardboard siding?
We had talked about it, but I think at this point, no, I don't think we're gonna do it. If you value the picture, I think that earlier picture
The current, yeah.
that the Huguenot Street, yeah. I think it's two reasons for not the brick on the lower. First of all, it's less expensive and less complicated, but that brick is typically a little dark anyways. You don't really see, I mean, you can see it, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not as prominent. And so we looked at various options, and given there are so many windows, we said, why don't we just go maximize the windows, reduce the amount of the backside, admittedly, you know, it's a 12-foot face that has only small windows. But that's, you know, towards the neighbor, not the street at all, no one would really ever see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also since you're kind of bringing in, like you're wrapping around the roof and you're using windows that match the rest of the house that has the siding, it's almost like you're treating that new extension with the same type of finishes and like language as the main part of the house, in which case I think gives some, you know, the siding makes sense, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're continuing the main volume of the house around the corner.
I mean, I think it's a point worth asking. It sounds like it's
not.
already going through
Yeah,
this.
I had the same thought at first too.
Could I just, Val, have one more look at the roof? Elevation. Okay, that answers my question. Yeah. So the beginning line of the new roofing material is the
Right,
front entry area. Yeah.
and that, so it's all, I mean, it doesn't look terribly obvious here, but it's all on the same plane with the garage. So it kind of, and as a matter of fact, over that window is an architectural element basically that mimics the roof. It's a trellis.
Yeah,
So it kind of is already tied in very nicely. It you know, I think it'll look good.
so our conversation plan is preliminary. Basically, what we need to do is decide whether this is ready for public comment. Because it's a major project on Huguenot Street. So it's gonna need public hearing a month from now if we feel it's ready.
Justin, how are you with the other reviews?
Yeah, good question, Val. I should have said that at the very beginning. So, there had to be a variance because it was a little over the line, the 12-foot.
Oh.
And we had the ZBA approval. I don't have the letter, but it was approved 2 weeks ago, and the attorney was writing about it. It went in front of the planning board. We had two public hearings, one for the zoning ZBA and one for the planning board last week. We had informed our neighbors all along, they had the same information you had, and we had no questions, so no one came to leave the hearings, and the planning board approved it last Tuesday. So both approvals are done.
So yeah, the timing would be great. Our next meeting is November 15th.
It's maybe then, it's a lot.
18th. I think that pushed out this is. Whatever. Is that a comfortable timeline for you?
I think so. I mean, sooner would be better, but you know our schedule. I mean, this is as quickly as we can really address, given we're out of the country.
Yeah.
For months.
Well, it's our next meeting, so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's we but
I was originally gonna try to pull it in a month sooner, but it just, there were some things weren't ready, and we had to nail down some details. So just let it fall naturally. So, yeah, that's fine, the builder we've selected. And I've been assuming that, you know, it's gonna be the last half of November, probably around the 1st of December, that any. If everything goes well, you know, a building permit might be available at that point, so not planning this any sooner, so that's fine. Okay.
Does anybody have questions or observations or suggestions?
Yeah, so, as you mentioned, like the architect didn't show like the existing conditions on the windows, but I'm assuming like these new windows, like the head height and
Yes,
matches and the sill height,
yes,
hopefully, but definitely the head height.
I'll make sure, because he doesn't have, but that was our intent.
Yeah,
And there should be no problem to do that because of the way. The elevation inside, the way we made it. I don't, and those windows are frankly very big already in the existing house.
yeah, I saw it.
I would imagine they're going to be very, very much the same, but
Okay, yeah.
I can double check that. It's probably a good question.
Yeah, I think that would be worth.
Because the windows are high up again. On the existing house are very high up to near the roof. There's just the trim. There's nothing beyond the trim. So it's like
Okay,
3
so they're
inches.
pretty tall, yeah.
So they're, and I like as big windows as I possibly can get. So that's, we're not gonna make them smaller. And particularly on the front, they should be the same.
Yeah, I mean, the sill height is less important, but the head height, if that's off, it just looks.
Yeah, yeah, I'll double check. I don't see any reason why. Particularly those couldn't be, because actually the height of the porch is going to match the height of the existing porch, so there's no reason why they can't all be in the head height.
Yeah, I assume that was the intention, but since it's not.
I actually haven't checked, but it's a good question.
Since it's not drawn and there's no note, I mean, even a note, you know, to match existing head height would be.
Okay. Yeah,
Would be good, and then, what else? I think I saw a note that the casing size and details are gonna match the existing windows.
Yes, well,
So, okay. It's all very obvious, but I just wanna make sure.
no, that's a good question.
And, you know, like the windows that are double ganged together, they have shutters.
Yeah,
I don't know if these windows need shutters because
I
they don't.
prefer not.
Yeah.
If we could, you know, if that, if
I don't know.
possible, the front ones, I mean, we might be able to throw shutters on the ones on Huguenot Street.
That's what, I don't feel that strong, but
I'm sorry, which
sorry,
one?
on the front
The
facade.
front side, so back a little out.
But it was something, I don't know, what do you guys think? Because, that's really the only thing missing that's not like fully tied together than the new windows from the
We
existing.
gotta go to the other elevation now, one down, one up.
Went up by-
And I think,
Yeah.
the new front windows would be the only windows
Okay,
that had the wall space to accommodate shutters. but
exactly.
Yeah,
I don't-
yeah.
I don't know, what do you guys?
No, I think that's the only place to have this
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
Now, maybe what would be most helpful actually is the photo, and we can, oh no, maybe that's the west elevation,
The west,
yeah.
elevation photo.
Well, I was originally thinking photo, but then it looks.
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
Show us everything. The west elevation, I think would. Did this come up, Jeff, with your architect?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and then just scooch over.
The shutters,
Yeah,
no, actually, we never talked.
I think,
But I hadn't People thought about it, so I saw it here.
Yeah, I think there's something there to talk about and maybe like, we don't love asking you to pay for changes, but it might be good to draw it out and see what you can do to visualize what it would look like with.
Yeah, well, you know, there's there's another post it's roughly in the center of that like blank space, so I mean, if we were trying to work to keep them fairly close, so it doesn't, you know, didn't look like just like an add-on, so we'll have to see how the shutter should fit, there's no reason why.
There's room for them and he that they're on right to the front of the house.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just work looking.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those things that, you know,
Yeah, no, it's fine. We're very interested in not making it look like an addition as much as we possibly can. So, yeah, sure, putting on.
I think since everything else matches, you know.
Right,
it's worth
exactly.
considering.
I think that's worth considering and should just take them a second to.
Yeah,
Policy.
I'm sure the whole minor tweaks that he might have to add in even for the builder. I know the builders asked for a few more comments on it.
Okay, yeah. The other thing I was gonna, since we have this elevation, is to do everything you can to keep the profile of the skylight down. I suspect that's just a pretty generic.
Yeah, so it actually, the skylight manufacturer, much to our surprise, said the better, well, it'll meet, he wants it long, the manufacturer wants it long, so we'll put it that way. It's been a discussion with the architect, because I want to make sure it's done properly, and the guy who's gonna do it, he's done, skylights, so there's a lot, not like it's first, but we went back and forth and Velux, the manufacturer says, we have a kit, you should make it this flush or whatever, it's not the raised version, which might have been what that.
I think that's just pretty generic.
Yeah, I wanted it low, and then then the builder said, geez, I think it may have to be, and then they went back to Velux. That may be in lower, and so it's kind of that looks.
And they're, as far as I know, the best makers.
Yeah,
They're
we're
not
gonna-
the only ones.
We specified their flashing, we're not gonna play around with any
Right.
games with this, we wanna make sure that it's gonna follow all the specs and have the best chance of not being a problem in the future.
That sounds great. So we are right where we hope to be, right?
Okay.
Just we'll schedule public hearing on the 18th of November.
And Valerie will send me the information post.
You know the drill.
I have to
You-
sign,
you
so
said
I
that.
had 1.4 signs up, so we have to, yeah, you've seen them, I'm sure. So I'm all ready.
That sounds great. And I think the only loose end is, deciding or thinking further about that shutter question.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some energy on this side of the table to look into doing that.
I will, and I'll get back to you.
Sounds great. Thanks. It's also for a really well put together package. It was easy to understand.
Yeah, good, well, bless. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Next, everyone, is a design review for admittedly a very good project. Please, come on. This is, I'm sort of reading into the record now. This is a request from the planning board concerning PD 2707. It's Westview Development LLC, a major project at 147 to 149 and 150 Linden Chestnut. That's the front of the back way.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, on that point, we've got someone behind you and we think it's a 5-minute thing.
Yeah.
All your cell work could be.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. No.
You can even use my easel if you want.
Yeah.
Say if you hear about it's action, baby.
Thank you so much. Good job. Zach, I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there. I saw somebody that was part of the team, but
I had interesting.
you know, it's a,
In case we don't want to see the other term.
I'll find that.
we probably have other things to do.
You can always have the option to stay, but you don't have to.
So if everybody remembers from last meeting, this question came up just as a kind of down to what we were discussing, which is the porch renovation. And Jeff and I communicated, some, St. Jeff, we had two Jeffs on the line. Zach and I communicated by email 2 weeks ago or so about the possibility of some HPC intervention, which would probably consist of like a formal letter to the DPW, just to kind of note that we're worried about this for preservation purposes. And I thought that rather than having me just fire off an email, it might carry more weight. This is discussed at a meeting minute and everybody has an opinion about whether this is a good way forward. I definitely have a concern that, you know, if that keeps happening, it's not good for the historic district. So,
Yeah, and that is what happens every time it rains at all hard. Like, you know, once a month or something or more, and it stays there a while. They had come by. I emailed with them and they said that the solution was gonna have to be to put another catch basin in. There's one on the other side of our driveway and there's one in front of the other house that's here.
okay,
And it started when they redid that road. They didn't, I forget what you call it, but made it out. They just put another layer down. And so that's when it started. And they said another catch basin was necessary. Then they showed up one day and they were gonna fill in. You can see if you go to the walkway in front of our house, there's like a little trench. And they were just gonna fill that in with concrete or with asphalt. Which I didn't want to have happen just because that's like part of our yard.
Yeah.
But also it seemed to me like it clearly wouldn't help because you could, you know, we also got a quote for like having somebody build a berm in front of our yard, so it would not be in our yard. It would still be in the street. I mean,
right.
it could be pushed out of our yard, but that's not gonna help with the giant puddle that's in the street. So that seemed like, I don't know if you can regrade it somehow, or if you just have to put in a catch basin or what, but it didn't seem like filling in that part of it is really gonna make a big difference overall.
What's the definition of catch basin? Did they say what material it would be made of? Or what?
I think it just, my impression was the same as what they have there now on the other side of the driveway. You know, great.
Yeah.
Which is not itself ideal, but it's just so much better than having a giant puddle.
Do you know if does that catch basin drain to?
I think it goes to the on the other side of the street, obviously, it's the wetland, whatever.
Right.
I think it goes down there, I'm not sure.
I had another thought, which maybe they explored, which is what's called a dry well. Where you basically just dig a hole, put a lot of rocks that leave a lot of space and then cover it with landscaping fabric.
Mhm.
And the idea is when water accumulates, it's got a big bucket to go into and eventually seeps out, but
Mhm.
is a form of catch basin, but it doesn't really lead anywhere. It just
Right, or maybe
it
they.
doesn't help you in a hurricane, but it helps you maybe in
Right,
a.
I think they do on King Street, because there's one at Mulberry. Right in front of your folks' house, and I think that they are all connected to the sewer system.
they were just put in, is that the one you're talking about?
No, it's been there forever, but I don't think they drain, I'm pretty sure that nothing drains down the slopes
Mhm.
towards the water.
Mhm.
Just no outflow that I've ever seen,
Like rushing out.
Russian hour or anything,
Right.
anywhere along there.
Right,
So I think it's tied in with the system, but I think that if they put one there, they have to connect it across the street. I think the pipes run on the side across from your house,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure.
Or if you could just get it to go to the current catch basin,
Yeah,
like maybe just grade it down into
Yeah.
that,
Right. Your driveway is asphalt?
it's gravel.
Okay, so if they had to go that way. it wouldn't be that disruptive, right?
I don't think so, yeah.
Is your sidewalk bluestone or cement?
It's bluestone with, yeah, it's bluestone. So right there, there's like some bricks right at the edge where it meets the street. But I mean, those could come up and then
That's kind of where it's going, and if there's a way to do it with the least disruption, then maybe that's.
So is your property line like here? Like following this line, or is it
Is it what?
your property line, like the edge of your yard, does it end like at this edge right here? No?
Yeah, that's the edge of the street,
Okay, yeah,
where you see it at the top in the corner. If you just continue that line,
yeah, the
so it's mostly on the road. It's just a little bit in a little trench that's been formed from people parking there or whatever. There's now like a little depression. Which doesn't help, but it's also just the little edge of it. It's not the most of the level.
Cause that's what they had done in 123. It's like there's like like a depression, almost like a little culvert, and then they just plopped or installed a graded drain in there, and then that takes care of it. But when they did that, they had to cut back, I don't know, a foot or two of the front yard, which obviously isn't ideal. But you kind of, I mean, I don't know how wide that is, but that might be wide enough to accommodate another drain. Maybe over here or something, I don't know.
So it's like a swale to just
Yeah,
drive water to the.
yeah, because I saw old photos of 123 and the front yard was deeper, and what they did was they cut it back. For, yeah, swale or whatever that term is, which it looks like you already have something like that there, and then they installed a drain. But it looks like they cut back further than whatever this dimension is. That doesn't look like a whole lot, maybe like, I don't know, less than 2 feet or something.
I mean, it seems to me like the low point is not in our yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it's slightly off.
Right,
Where the grass changes is about the property line?
yeah,
Okay,
that the flower
yeah, it's,
thing is the other neighbors.
oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, I see, okay.
I think this is the job for the DPW or the village engineer to design something to figure it out, to make that works.
Yeah, that's kind of what I,
And, you know, we could all go back and forth, but
We don't.
we don't have the knowledge for that, and, you know, we don't know if the soil's or clay soil's there where it. I think it needs to be designed and done properly.
And, we're certainly willing to give it a shot and advocate. I mean, if people agree, I think we
Yeah.
should
Absolutely.
advocate. As George says, nobody's sitting here knows how to do it.
Yeah.
But it's, do you by any chance have additional photos? Or is this the only one that shows the problem?
I don't think I do. I mean, this is what it always does,
Okay.
like without fail.
And it's roughly like every month that.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened. You asked me that and it just really hasn't rained much.
No, it
in the
hasn't.
last few weeks, but right, it's whenever it rains, that's exactly what it does.
And not necessarily a huge rain, right? I'd be nice if I could like put a number on it.
I mean, it happens like fall, winter, spring and into the summer, like
Okay.
regularly. Whenever, it doesn't take that much for that to happen, because I think it's just like all the water from both sides of the road, it just kind of collects right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that greatest thing would be if they could just regrade it, because it's so close to 2 catch basins that are just on either side.
Right.
But I don't know, that could be a huge dollar, that else.
Back to George's point, we don't know either.
No, they'll figure it out. I think that, you know, they just gotta get them to do something, but
Yeah.
they know what to do.
So, but here's what I would propose, I can write a letter, identifying the problem. Saying that, you've come to us twice, I can say. And that we've discussed it, we feel that this is an issue that needs to be addressed by DPW and or village engineer. Try to describe the problem as, a monthly occurrence. I'll mention the catch basin.
And maybe attach on the folder.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking. It'd be great if there were 5 such photos, but this is good.
Yeah, all right.
I'll copy right away.
Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I don't know what sway we have.
More than I do, anyway.
We're supposed to be looking out for the historic district, so. Okay,
All right.
maybe a couple of weeks, or a week plus.
Great.
It will come, so. All right, thanks, Alexei. Possibly, there are a little bars. No, that's, please come on up, and thank you very much for seating. That gentleman.
Well, you put yours up first. Yeah, I'll start and then. Good evening again.
Good evening. Again, thanks for letting them stay a little more than 5 minutes. Not that many. It's much longer than some. Yes. We kind of know this isn't going to be a minute. So
You're not one meeting.
no, not a minute, but, you know, a good start, and it's
Yes.
always better to get started talking early.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware, we had a gateway meeting with the county. It was that last meeting. Yeah. A lot of the outside, regulatory agencies in that meeting as well. Which is to discuss all these projects that have been going on in this one, and how they relate to each other. We actually have another meeting tomorrow with the Agway people and water and sewer department to discuss more aspects of design. So we're kind of taking in a lot of input from the regulators at this point.
Great.
So we may see some minor changes in the future with the property line here at Agway and the entrance.
Right.
Which might tweak a little bit there, but I think we wanted to go ahead and just get your thoughts and bring you into the whole design process and see what you think.
We really appreciate it. You kind of know who we are. It might be great if you could just self-introduce.
Okay, I'm David Burke, I'm the architect of DBA.
And I'm Mike Bodendorf with civil engineer with Hudson Land Design Engineers.
And Carol Pacheco, I'm working at the.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you all. Thanks. And is one of your colleagues? Okay, and that's the.
That's Buddy, that's the landowner. Yep.
Okay, got it. Terrific. You've probably been told or worked out, so our purview is really the design part. We're sort of complementary to the planning board.
Mhm.
They will be asking all the difficult questions about access and setbacks and things like that, so we're really here to focus on the design ideas.
Great.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna take you through just the basic kind of ideas of how the building is laid out. I won't spend too much time on that, and then I'll just go into the facades and materials and kind of what you're gonna see from the street.
Sure.
The building, we've got 126 units, and it's split into 2 buildings, as you can see. And the idea really was to create a healthy living environment about health and wellness. And it was really about to engage the surrounding community, the Falls, and also the surrounding landscape around it. So the building is split into 2. It's kind of pivoted here in the center. And what this does is allows for a public kind of park in front, like a public plaza, if you will, where people can kind of gather. And we can kind of expand the landscape out front. At the same time, it opens up to the back and it connects to the rail trail and to the natural environment in the back. And then the parking is split to either side. What we want to try to do is create a communal destination, if you will. In the center here, we have co-working space, event space, open to a residential courtyard, which is effectively a stormwater management courtyard that ultimately connects back to the rail trail, which we will be connecting to. So just kind of staying at high level, the kind of goal and aspiration of the project was to create a healthy development that promotes green building design, green infrastructure, and complete street practices. We want to encourage pedestrian activity, walking, biking, and the use of public transit. We want to create a community destination that fits within Impulse. We have some green building practices that we're considering at the moment. We want to maximize public and private open spaces, promote the use of natural building materials with a minimum of embodied energy. low energy mechanical systems. We want to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels and reduce the overall carbon footprint of the development. Mike's gonna go into some of the green infrastructure. I just mentioned the stormwater management strategies. And as I said before, the complete street really maximizes that street. So this really is a section through the building, so the public plaza out front, Route 32, you know, creating community space inside and then open to a public courtyard in the back. So this is a view looking northwest on 32. This is the public plaza. We have a mix of materials. We have a timber facade. We're looking at the potential for using CLT timber slabs, wood frame building. And then at the center, at the entrance here, we have contrast with a corrugated metal, probably a dark corrugated metal. And then last but not least, a view from above looking towards the gunks here in the back. We have the Agway project we just mentioned, so it's our neighbor there, potentially a shared driveway, and then the building here at 147. We want to provide amenity for the residents, so accessible rooftop with some green roofs potential, possibly some solar panels if it's not cost prohibitive. And as you can see, open to the back to the rail trail, which is just here. We know retail along the base. We're looking at some food and beverage potentially, and other kind of local shop owners at the base. And I think that's pretty much it.
Do you have any questions on that before I go into general?
Are they co-op condo rental units?
Yes.
Are they 1, 2, 3 bedrooms?
So there's the studio 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Studio 1, 2.
Is there a breakdown? This isn't really our purview, but I'm just curious.
So we can get that.
Okay. Studio 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know offhand how much square footage for retail?
We're looking at 7,500 minimum, but there may be additional depending on what happens with the shared drive.
Okay. That's a railing system.
It also be kind of blocking visually the equipment.
Yeah, that's
You need that by code too, at the fall protection for like the mechanical. So that was actually one, first of all, it's a great set of drawings. The renderings look great.
Thank you.
I think it's a very nice design. I really love the rounded corners. I think like, I don't know, this is like getting into the details here, but you come forward with a very complete design, so we could talk about the details, which is nice. Like if those rounded corners could, like the wood could actually be rounded and not like, you know, like a faceted, like straight, you know what I mean? I think that would just like really hammer home that detail, because like that was the first thing that jumped out to me. It really softens the building and it looks really nice. And I think like it looks like they're rounded at the inside corners too, like where those two volumes meet.
yeah.
And I think that does a really nice job of like separating the two different materials we talked about, like the corrugated metal and, you know, that volume, so to speak, hitting the wooden part of the building. It's just a nice detail. It's really good. So I think it would be nice to just really take that all the way, and like, you know, if those wood pieces at the corners could actually just be rounded, which is like it would look really good. I think in terms of like the railing at the top, you know, we all know why it's there. You know, the condensers. I mean, and I know this is a big ask, but is there any way that they could be pushed away from the street facade so that maybe that fall protection is not? It's not that it dominates the facade, but like it's just such a nice datum at the end, and then it's like the railing is on top of it, and I know you designed the railing in a way that it's like, it's not, you know, it's not that strong visually, and I know how it has to be there, and I don't know, I know it's not an easy thing to just relocate the condensers, but if it's.
We can definitely look at that, the condenser locations and quite honestly, the size, you know, for all of these needs to be gone through final design. So there is some opportunity to move these things around and potentially lower that.
Yeah, and also, and you know, I don't know, I mean, just something to consider, like, I know even like adding a bulkhead, like that's a big design change too, and I don't know if that's worth it, but there's any way to like. Whatever that, like the cap of that wood facade that you have, which I think looks really handsome, like maybe that could be brought up a little bit to sort of the railing height down, just. I don't know, just something to look into, and again, like. This is something we could talk about, because you have a very complete design, which, you know, which is great, thank you.
It is.
I think the wood material looks really great. One of the things I'm thinking about though is like over time. Like where you have this battens on the other side of the windows, you know, like that's kind of like a drip edge, right? Like over time. Where maybe you might have some staining on the wood. And I don't know how to get an answer on this, but like, do you know how that wood performs like over time?
So it's a really good question, and we have not settled on specific, we have species at the moment. And a treatment for it. And in fact, we are also looking at some synthetic as an option. But you know, I think that's the durability and the maintenance issue is key.
Yeah.
You know, you see wood facades all the time, actually. It does seem to, it is at this scale, you know, something to be, I think, even more considerate about. But there are ways to get 25 to 30 years out of a facade, you know, easily without any color change, right? In terms of its treatment. You know, I think you just have to do due diligence to make that happen.
I mean, even if there is color change, but it's consistent, because I just feel like the bad and drip edge, like it might concentrate the water at, you know, below all the windows, that you might see some staining over time. But I hope you don't move away from the wood, because I think it looks really, really nice. And then, again, it's a nice design. I would like to see some, I don't know, maybe you guys, but maybe some more like details or elevations on like the storefront windows, because I feel like that's another interesting part of the building, that you have like, you know, the residential block like sitting on top of the storefront windows, and they look like they have a totally different, well, not totally different, but like different.
It shows that.
Different type of, okay, yes,
So, yeah, I mean, we're looking at kind of an aluminum storefront, probably a lighter, on the lighter side color wise. And we're actually showing timber columns, heavy timber columns.
Okay.
As kind of a mass timber approach to that lower level. Which would, you know, kind of coordinate with the timber facade.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it looks good. I mean, I think it's the right move to have the, you know, different type of. You know, window treatment, window detail, like, I mean, the window details, and they can stand alone from, and as you show, like, they could be totally different than the residential part of the building, and they should be, to kind of delineate those two spaces, and that's one of the things I like about the design. You know, is that you have like a lot of, you know, it's like it's clearly separated into two different spaces, the materials are separate, it's deliberate, it looks good. It's a nice design.
Yeah, we want to try to make this as transparent as we can, for obvious reasons, you know, for sales opportunities from the retailers, but also to do very exactly that, to separate the two, so you know, the upper level kind of floats.
Yeah.
Right above the plaza level.
Yeah, there's kind of like a lightness to like the storefront windows, and then there's like a heaviness to like the wood, which I think looks really nice. Yeah, so in terms of like, are there any like any grills or mechanical vents that are gonna exist in the exterior walls?
Yeah, so down here on this at this level here, actually where the signage is, we have done some integration of probably aluminum louvers that you can actually would kind of blend in.
I think it's nice that they all kind of exist like in one strip instead of being like,
Yeah.
like almost like P-TECH units below every window. I think that looks really good. So maybe, I don't know, your decision. And I don't know if the material and the finish gets tied into the storefront windows. I'm not sure, but I think that's a good design decision. I think that looks really good. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of. I think it's a well thought out design. Just the one thing that really stood out to me was like how nice the round corners were, and then maybe if we could just bring down the height of the railing on the roof.
And actually, this shot kind of does speak to that concern.
Yeah.
On the question of railings, so we have very little input on the zero place project, which is kind of the starting point for this northward development. And one of the things we were not consulted on was that railing, which is not what we want. We'll just leave it at that. So if I could, just to Shane's point, I do like the idea of maybe making a little bit, maybe bringing the trim up if there's a way to do that so as to shrink the effect of the railing. I was also thinking, I thought this is what you were saying originally, just pull it back a little bit from the facade.
That would help shrink it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you were?
Yeah, but I know you need like a certain clearance behind the condensers for maintenance and blah, 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 so. Whatever.
I think we have flexibility on the roof
Okay, yeah.
and equipment on the roof. So that's a very good point. I agree as well, but it is maybe slightly a little too high.
It's just one of those function things that it's hard to work around, but it's not a negotiable, you know that. Is that generally agreed? Like, one of the things I thought would be helpful tonight is, if there's unanimity on the board, which there isn't always, then that kind of signals to you one outcome versus a mix.
We appreciate the consensus, always appreciate consensus.
I definitely feel like that could be visually strong, but pulled back or both.
Yeah. And then in terms of like the window treatment, like the windows, they don't have like it's kind of hard to tell, they don't really have like an applied casing, right? It's almost like the windows are set in and there's like a thin wood surround or something that kind of like they sit within like the wood.
So the idea is, so we worked hard at modularizing the windows. So there's kind of like, I think, 4 units that, we wanted to give the sense of kind of a randomness. So it wasn't like just repetitive all the way across, but given cost issues, we wanted to try to make some continuity to it as well, right? So we have at the moment 4 unit types, each with different configurations. So we could manufacture them, with an A, B, C, and D essentially. And over the course of, 150 windows or however many there are, there's some cost savings there.
Cause I think the way that you curve the corners and like the material of, of the wood, if the windows are set in a little bit, it just gives like a depth and a heaviness to the wall, which I feel like just, I don't know, to me, works well with just the design decisions you wanted to do.
One of the things, the reason why, one of the reasons we did that was to kind of frame your view from inside. So you don't have a huge amount of view left or right, like up and down the street.
Okay, so there's
So the battens are actually for that very purpose, so they kind of the shroud of the facade slightly. And that was also to kind of suggest a certain historic, reference to, that shutters, if you will. But also a modern touch to kind of control the view and have less of that kind of connection to the street in a way.
Yeah, it's an interesting detail that I don't know if I've seen it before, but I like it. It's unique and it looks good, I guess.
I guess I was in the wood type, we think, so that it would be.
No, I think like leading into that, like not having like a, like a sill, like a skirt below, like those kind of traditional type of window applied casings. I feel like it's cool the way you have the vertical bounds on the other side, and if the window reads as if it has like a, like a deep jam on the exterior, like sitting within the wood walls would just look really.
Yeah, there's a certain depth to it, gives a certain robustness to.
Yeah, exactly,
the
exactly.
overall facade, it gives more durability, if you will.
Yeah.
You start to see that depth, that relief.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could jump in too, so there's another zero place Stephen that we didn't have a lot of control over. We did push for sills with some profile, we didn't really get what we wanted, and we got almost nothing. You know, that gives mass or definition to the windows, so. Yeah. So the slightly different era, they were really the pilot project in this part of the village, but I'm personally with Shane that, there's some definition to the windows that's, you know, it's occurring in a way that isn't traditional to the downtown of the village, but it's
Yeah.
kind of functioning in that way. And the way of kind of, as you described, David, just the way it kind of focuses the view away from the street and into what's beyond is very clever.
I think it was very good at that end of North Chestnut. I think it will fit in very well.
What's interesting to me is, you know, this is about as far as the village goes. It's as far from the historic center as you can go in the village, I think maybe minus one more lot. So
No,
what,
it is because BOSI's is just the next.
yeah, so it is the ending. There's a kind of rhythm that's starting to be established. I mean, to the extent that we had input on Zero Place, we were holding them to design language of the downtown. As we get further away, I think there's more scope for something that isn't so adherent to that. But anyway, we should go around and see.
I think it really, it will fit in. I think it'll be a nice addition, and those rounded corners are very nice.
Yeah, I love the community space in the front. It's great, I mean, gathering space, community space, the bike racks in the front. Well, nice out in that space.
It's the bike lane right now. Yeah. the
No, yeah, because of the Empire State Trail.
Yeah, you're fully aware, right, that the Empire thing, I mean, it's, this summer it was really notable when Henry W. Du Bois' project was done, it's just, people are gonna pour.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bike lane on this side on the street, you know, I think is also appropriate, only because people use it to go to, you know, to retail outlets and.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're not getting bikes up and down this road, so, you know, you give them a place to pull off and a place to park their bike, and now all of a sudden you're creating a, you know, a destination.
I brought with me the color scheme of the Edway development.
you did.
Yes, I don't know how much discussion did you have with them about that, because, you know, you don't want your building to look very similar to theirs, and I noticed that you have some black corrugated metal elements, and I'm not sure what we're gonna be doing to you, but their siding is going to be these three colors.
That's actually not too dissimilar, which I'm
No,
not,
it's not really-
no, I'm not upset about that, I think I think that would help just to kind of connect the two buildings maybe a little bit more.
And then there is another building, you know, the next to Icor, which will be brick and a dark gray
Yeah.
siding, so I'm just a bit concerned that they will look too similar.
Well, so we have the renderings of Agway, and I would say the timber facade is, at least in this view, is far lighter than anything they're doing. So it's funny you brought that up, I'm gonna go back and have a closer look.
Yeah, just see what this is.
It's been a little while since I've seen them actually, I think it's, you know, it's like, you know, last fall, when I
And
was
the
really
rendering
studying.
is like do seem lighter than these colors, so just, we can, you know, we can. Colors that they chose. The specifications, so that you can have some samples. Right. I do love the rounded corners.
Did you have thoughts on rounded corners?
I think the whole facade looks great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's some unanimity, I mean, really a strong positive response on that design detail. Yeah. Can we go back, anybody else want to comment on facade?
So this, the seams that we're seeing, like between, like the horizontal seam. Between the two windows, like is that's not a batten, right? That's like a reveal between the wood, so the only battens are on the vertical side, okay.
So the idea is to make the side as modular as you can get it, and possibly utilize prefabrication methods. So that we have these kind of fabricated sets in the factory, and they're brought and they're assembled quickly along the facade. So there was a thinking behind the fabrication that informed actually the elevational aesthetic as well. As a way to bring up some economy to the project and also speed in the erection sequence.
When you attempt that kind of cassette style, do the window cutouts happen on site, or is it designed in?
They would actually fabricate it in the shop, and they would be brought and basically just affixed to the slab that's in place.
I can see the economy for that for sure, and the accuracy.
Yeah, right, and
Yeah.
far better craftsmanship. If you do it on a controlled situation.
Which you even send the windows to be fabricated
Hmm.
in those, right? Like they can install the windows, at least for Harvest Homes for residential, like you could send them all the windows and they build them right into the wall panels before they send them to you on site.
That's.
Yeah, but yeah, so I guess there's gonna be a natural theme between the boards and those four that we see between the panels, like that's a little bit of a different size of a seam, but it looks like you lean into that to kind of like set a rhythm between.
That's right.
Which is nice, I think that works well, I guess. You know, like when you're looking into that seam, not that you're gonna like staring right into it, but you know, like what do you see beyond? Like, is there?
So they would be a reveal, they would be sealed with some kind of elastic compound. They would be up high, right?
Yeah.
Above your head. And they do exactly that, they start to create a rhythm, a module across the side.
But it's not like you're reading the wood as if they're like floating, like attached to like
No.
whatever substrate is beyond, you just see the wood
No.
like a small seam.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, that's what I thought.
Could we have a peek at the aerial?
Yeah, I apologize for not getting these to you earlier, I know you're probably seeing these for the first time.
It's early days.
Well, I just, it was happened to be at one kind of, one of those
Yeah.
manic days, so I just wasn't at my computer.
And this is helpful to see it in relation to the Agway
Yeah.
project. So the idea of a shared driveway, is that kind of coming from you, or is that coming from?
I would say yeah, but I also think it was mutual,
Yeah.
between both parties. I think we're trying to kind of solve some problems on both of our sides, and I think it's kind of a more of a collaborative.
Right, and one of them is both sites sit, well, this site will sit high like the Agway sits now above the floodplain. This site sits low now, we have to fill it to bring it up above the floodplain. So if we don't collaborate with them and have some kind of shared driveway, there's gonna be this depression between the sites that it's kind of no man's land, it doesn't really function in any way. By combining the entrance, we'll be able to just kind of have an even plane through there. Otherwise, both sites have retaining walls because we're so close to the property line. So we're working with them on that. They're definitely on board to try to make something work out. And the DOT has expressed recently that they would like us to try to combine those entrances if we can make something.
You're gonna have two entrances next to each other, which could cause issues, you know, just more traffic.
And confusion, someone's pulling on one, someone's turning into ours, there's. Things like that.
And you're reducing paved area, right? You're reducing paved area,
Yeah,
creating more green area.
no, I think it sounds great. I was gonna say even just down to like different. If it's gonna be asphalt, you know, different recoating schedules, and it just looks weird to have this against that. But no, I'm glad that there's harmony on that. You mentioned that you're gonna connect the rail trail. I think you'll need a bridge. Just, you know, pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, the creek in the back is actually substantial at that location.
It'll be a great amenity though, I mean, as, you know, when the owner starts to look to lease it, I mean, direct access to the rail trail that takes you to Battery Park. Without traffic, it's pretty much without traffic is a real advantage.
Yeah.
That's good.
So. For the grade group. What's the deciding factor on that? I mean, I know it's expensive and even like structurally, you know, it's like. The deep assembly to have a green roof and it's a lot of weight. Is it like it's in the rendering, so is that part of the design now, or is it something that is?
It's more about the extent and you know, what is afforded by the budget. I mean, it would be an extensive green roof, so it's a shallow, a cedar roof. As opposed to say an intensive, which is like an 18-inch, you know, you can have like full, you know, growth trees. Like this is more of just a shallow 3 to 4 inch, fairly light, not too expensive, but it does slow water. Which is part of Mike's runoff calculations. So the intent of the green roof is not to be able to sit up there on the green roof and sunbathe, you know, it's really just, it's a stormwater management system that well, it does several things. It slows the travel of water, absorbs water, but also it creates habitat, birds and insects and things.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, there's no like, I'm not seeing any down meters, so like the storm water gets brought.
They're on the interior. Yeah.
And what's sort of plan for people space in the roof? Like
There are actually a series of terrace, you know, outdoor patios on the backside. You can see that. So those folks with apartments on the end, at the end units have outdoor space. And then at the top, we're allowing for room for public use, for the residential.
Yeah.
Public residential use, if you will, people live in the building.
Sure.
Yeah, and that may be a series of outdoor seating areas and tables and. So this being a shade structure to help, you know,
Wonderful.
shade from the direct sun.
Has anybody heard one way or another whether the Zero Place roof deck has bothered neighbors? It'd probably be best place.
That was the fear, the friends and new folks were
Yeah, no,
very concerned that yoga practices or something would be going on up there.
well, I think they were worried about ragers, you know, but it hasn't happened, has it?
I've never seen a light in the roof or heard a sound. But I live like 200 feet.
I mean, you can hardly imagine how anxious the community was about the roof deck. And I think partly the owners mitigated it by having some pretty strict hours. I think it closes at 10 or something. But the fear, you know, and maybe reasonable in college town is that there's gonna be all night cloud parties, so. I'm glad here it hasn't been, but it's maybe wise to be aware that that's in the history of roof decks. Alex, anything to add or ask? So I think did you want to add anything?
But I could go through the site plan, how we're managing stormwater, where we're getting water, sewer. We have a lighting plan here. I don't know how far you want to get into that. It's very preliminary in nature. We've modeled light poles in the parking lots and in the front plaza, but we don't have any building mounted lights in that model yet because we're still working on picking out certain
Pictures.
Fixture, yeah.
Thank you. But I have cut sheets of what we have so far on the plan. I'm not
Sure, why don't we look at that? I mean, I think that the lighting is probably closer to our purview of all those things.
Could I just ask one more question about the facade? Is it possible to maybe break it up a little bit more on this longer, in the building? Just seems a bit, monolithical. Is it possible to break it up a bit? I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe it's just like,
What is the?
in relation to the other buildings, that seems a lot bigger.
Really?
Yes. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your point.
Just the length of undifferentiated facade.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Side. What,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, David, what's the length of that wing?
We're like, 125,
That's 12 feet for each.
what, 12 feet for each unit. I mean, I feel like one of the things we did try to do was to create some relief with the landscape. And the idea that this was a kind of canvas or backdrop of wood, would help to blend the natural, trees or. So there was a concerted kind of intent that the landscape in a park-like setting was actually proud, if you will, for that very reason that you don't ever want to see a building kind of go on forever.
Yeah, I think that's what you
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
to have that. Not a bowling area, but obviously because on the other side, you don't have anything like that, but just. Mitigate
design standards from other communities where this is sort of, more rigid, that there can be no continuous thing beyond 70 feet. I mean, it is an interesting question. I guess I would say that, the landscaping is achieving a lot, the materials, the differentiated entranceway with the metal. And also the fact that it's asymmetrical, I think works to its advantage, right?
yeah, I agree. I think,
Well, somehow over here on the site plan, it looks like that unit's broken up. Those little bump outs.
So this is taken at the ground floor. So these bump outs are actually planters.
Oh, okay.
So they're built-in planters to also help break up relief.
That's gonna break the bottom of
That's gonna break the bottom.
That might be quite a bit.
But it could be, that's a very good question, and it could be interesting to take that wall facade with a siding detail.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we were very kind of focused on economy. And the idea that these are similar cassettes, right? That the relief comes in the different window fenestration, right? Because each one of these units has a different window.
Oh, it's hard to see, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Right.
And so, so it wasn't, we wanted to kind of get away from the repetitive, but we wanted to maintain economy in terms of its construction technique. So that's why we kind of broke these into the same size panels, but then, added some relief with a different fenestration. And then together with the landscape in front, there's some continuity between the two.
Maybe next time we get a better look at that elevation.
yeah, definitely.
I think it's definitely a point worth raising. Probably out of all the designs we've seen in the last couple of years, this most successfully addresses that issue of roughly 120 feet. Undifferentiated in major ways, but in minor ways, it's working. Right? for me.
Yeah, I think as David said, the fenestration brings it up, and I think. Again, it's the wall assembly with the wood, it makes it interesting, it's not just like a pressive long brick wall, you know, it's like if the wood details are as successful as the rendering makes it look, then I think it will be like a beautiful building, so. It would be great to get like a sample, or even just like a blown up detail of what, you know, the wood and, you know, the window surrounds and I'm just interested to see it in a little bit more detail, because it looks. From this scale, it looks great. So, you know, like a flat elevation with maybe, you know, like a blown up window detail if possible.
We have a three-dimensional blow
That
up
would be
of the two together, so you can see the corner and the curve and then corrugated. And then and the facade down at low, so it's like a full, this full corner is blown up, so we can get to that.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing like the 3 different or 4, whatever, like the window. Details that like in, you know, within those different facades, the metal, the wood and the storefront windows.
All right, we can do that.
Okay. All right, so I have some cut sheets of the light poles that are on there now. Two different styles. Actually, the luminaires look very similar. That's one style. There's 5 of each.
Oh,
just distribute them. But yeah. So just real briefly. We have the GALN style along the front on 20-foot poles. This is a very messy plan of clean this up. It's very difficult to read, and I'm just realizing that now. And just so you know, this plan was done on our first iteration of the design. This doesn't reflect the extension of the building that we've done. And we shifted our entrance further south to accommodate that building extension. So taking feedback from this board, from the planning board, from the consultants, will, you know, redo the lighting plan and add building fixtures to it as well. So it's just very preliminary in nature right now. So there's just a mixture of those 2 styles of luminaires, 20-foot poles along the frontage, 20-foot poles in between the buildings. And then around the perimeter and the parking, a number of those are on 28-foot poles.
Okay.
And those are the DL or the GPC model. The ones on the 20-foot poles are those GLA models, the type 2.
Okay.
So the blue like blurbs or whatever, the blue orbs, like that's like a certain full candle reading.
Yes, that's the one.
Of
The 1-foot candle. The red is 0.01, purple is 0.1. The darker blue, which is not a very good illustration or a contrast between the 2, is a 0.5, and then the lighter blue is the 1. So these lighter blue small circles right beneath the lights are the blue super ones. And again, it's a work in progress. This was our first run at it. Just kind of.
I think you could read it pretty well.
Yeah. That's much easier to see than this one. I guess, is this board looking to have some continuity between light fixtures, styles, light pole styles between the projects that have been built, this project?
I think the fixtures kind of stand alone on their own, like in relation to the project, and I think these fixtures look nice and they seem consistent with the building design.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at some building mounted lights. I have cut sheets for those. We haven't decided on those yet. It's more work with David and our owner to decide on which ones we're gonna. But everything we're stacking is dark side compliant, LED, very shielded, very directional, no glare.
I mean, that's sort of the first line of question. No, well, to answer the question, I mean, honestly, this area is developing so quickly that I'm not sure that question has come up or we've had a chance to think of it. But I'm with Shane that the most important thing is that it relate to the building.
But I think maybe like the color, the warmth of the color should match, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
want like really, 27 Kelvin and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then whatever, 3200 Kelvin on like the next,
Yeah.
the building right next to it. I think that'll look like a mistake, but the fixtures can be their own. But the
Well,
lights,
it's a really good point, actually, is that we should coordinate that, right, in terms of the light design and the light temperature.
yeah, the light
Yeah.
temperature, exactly.
I usually specify 2700
Yeah.
to start, and it's usually maybe slightly higher or slightly lower or right around in there, depending
Yeah,
on
that's-
the quality where it is and. You know,
That's kind of like the warmest LED, right?
Yeah.
2700, yeah,
It is,
like that's what we
27
always
is-
see.
Mhm. That's good. Thank you very much. This all sounds good, so I think where we are, it's obviously very early in the process, but we communicate that the major points of discussion, with the planning board, make sure that you're copied. And what I'm, I took 2 pages of notes, but I think the salient things are general happiness with the design. In particulars that I can list. We had a pretty robust conversation after that and doing whatever we can to minimize the effect of that. So possibly pulling it back, maybe thinking about where the mechanicals are gonna live. Positive comments about the relationship of the domestic fenestration to the commercial. Thinking about really making those wooden edges be rounded, nice suggestion there. Maybe some coordination on colors with the agri project. Hard to know what the magic relation, there should be some consistency going up the street, but we probably don't want to just duplicate what's next to create confusion. Positive response, as far as I know, everybody was positive on the shared driveway. Idea.
Yes.
I think given the alternative, it's better. A discussion about that 120-foot north wing, but there are definitely some things going on that mitigate the usual problem with the long stretch. And then the lighting is good, so I'll put that in, it's gonna take me a week and a half before I can get to that, but good time. Copy.
All right. No, share the renders, and I'll also get to the additional that has the detail that looks up.
That would be lovely.
Answer your question immediately, I think.
And how far would you like us to get with the other boards before we come back and see you? We haven't even gone through seeker yet, we haven't done seeker or anything.
I feel like you can always come to us whenever you want guidance or have a question. There isn't that much we can do by email because I don't like to speak for the board, so it kind of takes it. So I would say on your schedule, and then also, the planning board will undoubtedly at some point ask that we look again. Any variance? Are you seeking any variance for this?
It's just on the side yard setback.
The side yard setback that we're too far away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The setbacks in this zone work if there's a road behind all of these sites, but all we have is that rail trail and a ditch.
Right.
So we have to have our access points on the sides of the building, so we need that variance for that. Both sides, I agree, have it for both sides.
That feels like it should be very straightforward.
Yeah, that will be that.
There's nothing.
And Agway had the same situation, and they were signed off on it, so.
And that's why we extended the south end of the building, because the zone were very comfortable giving a variance that large, because they knew we could make adjustments to the plan to better accommodate what the code calls for.
Very good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you all, see your wonderful design.
Thank you for your comment.
So I hope I wasn't vague about when we next see each other.
No, I think we'll have a good idea of when that time
Yeah.
is right, when we have when we developed into the design based on
Yeah.
other consultants, regulators and so forth. And
Right.
then
We
when
know
we have that nailed down, we'll be able to tighten up everything else.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks, Chris.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I would suggest that we kind of not file things for this project. and then we get them for-
Yeah.
Right. So the other, referral we had was for the planning board by, just from the planning board with the MLT bank.
Oh, yeah.
The handicap ramp. Can we look at that now? Thank you again. Good night. Have a good night.
There's a lot of pieces to it.
There were a lot of pieces. I mean, I'm guessing if you shrink it, it would be a little.
You have a very unsightly ramp as it is now.
Yeah. You know, I've wondered about, this is such an interesting building per se, that before we got some design review, I was thinking for years that we should try to landmark the building. I mean, it's not everybody's favorite, but it is of a style. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, is there, everybody had a look at this project? So this is, the ADA compliant ramp. To me, it looked good.
In a way, like the details of the ramp and the steps are just kind of gonna be, I don't wanna say generic, but
Right.
compliant, like it's your typical kind of like inward sloped risers and kind of simple railing. I mean, I don't know. It's not that it's. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting anything else. Right?
No, I wasn't either.
Are there any elevations?
We have,
I didn't see elevations, but they have details of
yeah, they
the.
have.
Just tell me if you want me to stop or keep going.
That's
That's
probably the most,
landscape.
that's landscaping stuff. I feel like there was one of those that was useful.
There's one for this. Sure.
Yeah, this might have rather. There we go. That's. I just, probably the less it calls itself out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have a lot to say. I mean, just seeing self-evident that this is okay. And they have to work with the regulations. So
Yeah.
They don't have much for that space, but I think it's well done.
Surprised the footings are so deep.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know that we have to swirl around and around. Are there any objections?
No.
Okay, so let's just, that'll be on here. We're fine. I am glad that we're looped in on these things because some are more, I don't know, salient or important than others. So we'll call that a yes. and I'll report that back. On the updates and discussions, now we can start working through some of this. So 102, I will go ahead and write that letter. It really can't happen for a couple of days. It's super busy. But it will, and then I'll get it out. To everybody. 130 Huguenot Street, Stevie, let's have an update.
Within a day or two of the last tradesman finishing up and pulling out, I have a friend who's got a search on Zillow that gets emails, and that Friday, I think was the last day, Thursday or Friday, the last day of the tradespeople, and Saturday night, I got a note that the house was on the market. Yeah. So, I have not in person talked to either of the owners, but, we got a text and they're saying that their lives are taking them elsewhere and they've got other places. So when they realized that, they decided, I guess, to finish up and
So
it was, I think their purchase price was sixes. And it's 1.3, 1.25, and I mean, certainly a lot of renovation work went on. But
I did click through, I think actually Michael, no, you did. Michael sent the link and I clicked through, yeah, it's beautifully done.
yeah,
They
did a good job.
Yeah, so the question I had, and I don't even know if this is really our purview, but do you all think that a letter to the listing realtor reiterating that you can't do Airbnb or, sort of putting in writing what the village code is regarding this is sticking our nose into something that we don't belong in, or?
At 1.3 million, I would be less concerned with people Airbnb-ing it. I mean, it certainly was a factor before, but it was a $400,000 house. And those people were, not there. I mean, it is pristine, and if anybody wanted to have it stay as pristine as possible, I don't think they'd be doing that. But it certainly wouldn't hurt to remind the realtors or any potential buyers that these are some of the conditions of the area.
I don't know that we can reach out to potential buyers, I mean, that would be like after the fact. But, agents are supposed to disclose what they know, and if they know because we wrote to them. I don't know, I'm ambivalent about this idea. I mean,
we're hoping to get new neighbors, we're hoping to get good neighbors, that's, we always do it, but, we've seen, showings, there's gonna go to the house, there's been, a number of showings that we've noted. So there's some activity. I mean, people with their couple of kids, and it certainly does not suit for family. It's really like one bedroom in the studio, which you wouldn't want to have your kids in the studio. So I think it makes some the future buyers, and they sort of self-select and with financial wherewithal.
Did they ever get that like studio legalized as an ADU or anything?
Not that I'm aware of it. It has a septic field. It's not connected. The studio is not connected to the municipal sewer.
Interesting.
So, and that just drains back towards Zero Place and the rail trail.
I don't think you should get involved.
I mean, it's kind of an enforcement.
And I think what Steve said too, if someone paid $1 million+ for that, it's not gonna Airbnb. A place like that.
Where is that law like currently posted? That rule?
Must be somewhere on the kind of code.
So I guess, by that logic, it's like, it's out there, just like every other.
That's right.
Enforceable.
That does seem,
That's right.
strong.
Yes.
You sort of, a little bit like the standing water issue, we're sort of the guardians in the way of Huguenot Street, but it's a village-wide thing, so maybe they do. Yeah.
Michael and I will keep an eye on that place.
It's a shame, it's a shame that they're moving out because they seem like really nice people.
Yeah, they did.
And they did a beautiful job.
Yeah, they're just gonna be selected. Yeah, have to take that in face value. Anything else from Huguenot Street?
Not much. Not much, that was the big news.
Beautiful.
You wanna report Jude's response?
Yeah, this would be a place to do that. So Jude at Historic Huguenot Street reported that they're thinking about a new wigwam in 2026. If you recall, we extended their wigwam service. But he said that they had to do some repairs and they're thinking about a new one in 2026, and it's been very successful. I think, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The other is the porch project is delayed because of some other work that needs to be done, but he's really hoping to have it wrapped up. There it is. So safety ropes are still out there, hoping to start and to finish this year. So that's a good report, I guess. I mean, things do get delayed. Other reports. So Village Pizza, apparently, Michael learned this. Apparently, the new tenants of Village Pizza, like the Huckleberries.
The owners.
Huckleberries.
Darlings.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, this is one.
Chilson.
That explains why all my friends go to government. It's good food. Didn't know that. So I guess they're gonna be taking over, and some time ago, we talked about trying to landmark Village Pizza, mostly because of the ice cream cone. We never did, but if everybody agrees, I will try to reach out to the owner of the building and just see where we are with the ice cream cone and make the best case.
I think it's a fascinating building, and the letters on the ice cream window is tall 1940s, 50s wooden letters, ice cream or shakes or whatever. It's fascinating. That trend still exists. It's amazing.
And what is, Huckleberry going to do with it?
And that, I don't know, my guess is, not try to redo Huckleberries, because that was so. So an outdoor stuff.
That would be interesting to find out what's going in there.
There's not much room inside, and then they take out. Well, there's the pizza side, I don't think the ovens remain, but everything else is gonna be moved, and all of the original side, I think, was the ice cream side, and then they added the pizza.
That's correct, yeah.
So and it's a little unclear beyond nice weather, there's a couple picnic tables in the back. There are a number in the front. So I'm very curious to see what would be any kind of cuisine. There's not a whole lot of room in that space for people and a kitchen.
Right. Maybe it's gonna be largely a curio. So like next.
Only this Village Pizza, that was 60-second walk.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that ice cream cone is the original, right?
I don't know.
I think we talked about this a long time ago. Somebody reported that it was not the original.
The little I know is that it was the outlet for the Jewett Farms milk and cream, so like down the street they would sell it. But some research might just okay, that's good to know. I didn't remember.
I remember us talking.
Speaking of Mexican kitchen, that's soft work.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so
What happened to that guy?
I don't know.
I've walked by and there's stuff piled in the alleyway, not like, I mean, it's fast stuff, but it's.
Months and months ago.
And then there's a lot of, every time somebody from Spectrum goes by, they glue their car to the window if you want a cable TV account or something, and it's just a lot of mail in the mailbox. And
I don't know.
It was moving along nicely and then,
and they changed
went from the French restaurant back to the Mexican restaurant.
Well, that may be part of our answer. No, I don't know the answer. George, I do have an update on the China House, 102 Main Street, just today. Got an answer back from the village, building inspector. Who said the family of the original owner are looking to open it back up as China House. So maybe that was a rumor.
Oh, you're kidding.
That's what he's saying. Operating permit requirement will be to clean up the exterior. If they do that, we should definitely have a role in.
Okay.
That building's got great bones. Yeah,
Oh,
things like that.
Yeah, it does.
Two entrances.
Two entrances, the fenestrations are.
Well, I'm sad to hear that.
Street.
That was a good rumor.
Yeah.
What was the rumor? Rossi's Deli from Poughkeepsie. Coming in there.
Maybe it was a possibility.
So we're gonna have it to Scotty's back again.
I've heard it was gonna be a Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a joke.
Yeah,
It's just a joke. I said I heard it was gonna be a Trader Joe's.
Trader, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I keep having this
Wow,
fantasy
so
of the
really?
Adams outlet.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the little mini Adams and.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, well.
Anyway, we'll
Okay.
keep up with that, but it's on our radar and it's on Alex's that we wanna be part of that discussion. 62 Main Street, I think we didn't get him forward tonight.
No, but I think the building inspector should make him repair that fascia that's falling on the front of the building.
Yeah.
If you could just maybe write to the building
Yeah.
inspector,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Okay, will do.
because knowing on the hill, you know, it could stay like that for quite a long time, especially had problems with OSHA.
Right, it's probably,
It needs to fix that.
I will do that action item to me there.
He also hasn't, you know, finished the back and there's like ramps with no railing and. So it's an open building permit, you know, construction stopped there,
Right.
but there's some open issues that maybe the building inspector should go check.
Okay, I'll definitely note that. Prospect Street, I think we have our answers.
Yeah.
Still on hold. Railroad history, so things are actually moving ahead. Terry Dungan wants to apply for the Nyquist grant, couple $1,000 to do a site survey, an engineering survey. He would like or I offered, pending our approval to do so, a letter of support for that grant. So my question is, anybody have an objection if I write on behalf of the HPC that we support them? Okay.
You know, Terry reached out to the town of Highland,
No, I don't, but
because they have two completions there, right?
yeah. He may have, but I just forgot to ask him about. Nothing new on the proposed code revisions. I need to circle back to Mike at some point. Budget report is still really good. We're still under pace. Annual report, oh boy. Val, that's basically you and me in the next couple of weeks.
Did you see what we got though? It's a simpler form and it's a fillable form.
Good. I saw that they said it was coming. I didn't click through to see it.
Yeah, but it's due November 15th.
I can do it after about November 1st or 5th. Okay. Pilot episodes haven't moved ahead, but George and I and so sorry. 58 Main Street, George, sorry. And Burke, so late in the day. I'd really like to have that sit down and do this at some point. We have a little, it's like a journalist's microphone, but I started to wonder if maybe we need better miking to give good quality recording. So I emailed somebody who knows about this stuff and he made a recommendation that would be pretty affordable. So,
Anytime.
yeah, that sounds great. Partners in preservation, let's say for just a minute, we'll do that in executive session. Design guidelines, Shane and I met and drafted a fact sheet. I don't know if people had a chance to look it over. Does it seem like we're moving in the right direction?
Yes, I think it looks really good. I might just add maybe the use of interiors on windows.
What's that? Okay, I'll make a note of that.
That might
Is
miss
that, oh, I'm sorry.
interior
Interior
sign
storms. Yeah.
that could mitigate some issues.
You know, old style storms aren't the worst technology either. People let them get all clogged up because they don't open, but they're pretty good technology. You know, since we last talked about it, we had talked only about windows and doors. Shane and I were working through the document and realized that Kingston puts shutters and that seemed like a good idea to us. So interior storms. One of the things that I was thinking is if we can keep these to 2 pages, so like when they're printed out, it's a single sheet.
Yeah.
Doesn't overwhelm, somebody doesn't understand this stuff, it's just like, tell me what to do, give me, I don't know if this ended up being like 5 things to think about. Does that feel right?
So it's choosing window shutters, doors, and nothing about siding?
Not on this one, but the hope is that maybe we end up with like 6 of these on different topics, like one for siding, maybe siding and roofing. We already have one for the split AC units, which now that I think of it could be expanded maybe to like where you put your propane tank, you know, just kind of the basic stuff. So maybe, you know, a brief series of these things that maybe we get into lighting. Okay, so there's no particular rush on this one. At some point Shane could do some drawings where we're illustrating the parts of them. I think maybe we just do like a sash window and a casement window and just label the parts. So we'll keep on that. Everybody do your financial disclosure form.
We're good. The only person I'm not sure about is Michael, and I'll just check in.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so that's the agenda. Is there anything? You know, I wanted to go into executive session and talk about partners in preservation and then wrap up. So,
I would go into executive session to discuss partners in preservation.
and I think practically what that's gonna mean is turning off the broadcast. So motion to do that, is there a second? Camilla, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna shut that